What's up YouTube? In this video I want to go over how to actually improve on a Shadow Priest in MoP Classic. Let's go! Keybinds are going to make you a much better player. I'm not going to go too much into keybinds, but I'm going to go over the main things that I think will help you out the most. So first thing I want to go over is movement. So that means you're going to want to build all your core rotational abilities around your movement keys. That way they're easy to hit and you can still be on the move while doing it. So that's like the general goal here, is to put all of our most used abilities on our easiest and most accessible keys for you. Now keybinding can be pretty personal. A keybinding that works for me is probably not going to work for you. So that's kind of like the process of figuring that out. So the movement keybindings, the default movement keybindings are pretty bad. I'm pretty sure it's turn left on A and turn right on D. I haven't had this for years, so I can't even remember if that's how it's set up. But what I did was I moved strafe left to A and strafe right to D. So instead of actually your character just turning, when you hit A, you're just going to automatically move that way. And then same with D. So I'm going to strafe right automatically, instead of your character literally just doing this when you hit the key, which is very inefficient. And you can do this how you want. I know there's people who use ESDF because that frees up even more keys potentially. I like WASD, but you can even go with Q, W, and E. Just make sure whatever your movement keys are that you have strafe left instead of turn left and strafe right instead of turn right. Now this is kind of personal preference. I have moved backwards completely unbound because I always strafe when I play. So even if I'm moving away from a mechanic, I'm either turning my camera like this and strafing right, or turning my camera like this and strafing left, even backwards too. And then like I said, I don't want to go too much into key bindings, but just keep in mind that the general idea here is you're trying to build all your core abilities and your main cooldowns, well really everything, but your most used abilities on the easiest keys for you to hit. So for me, that's 1 to 5. I used to have 6 on, but I found that I was kind of fat fingering it every now and then, so I just completely removed 6 from my keybinds. So I went 1 to 5, Q, E, R, F, C, T, and S. So these are all on my first action bar, which in my opinion for me are the easiest ones to hit for myself. So then as you can see here, I have all my core rotational abilities, Mind Blast, Mind Flay, blah blah blah, all here on my main action bar 1. And then action bar 2, these are the less comfortable keybinds but still really accessible. So I use shift 1 to 4. So shift 5 is a little awkward for me, so instead of using shift 5 I just use the little squiggly there next to 1, and then shift Q, E, R, F, C, T, and S are also really easy for me to hit. And then my third bar is mostly my mouse and then any extra keybinds that I have free. So what I found with keybinds and what helped me improve a lot was grouping my action bars by ability type. So what I mean by that is just basically having one bar as like your core rotational abilities, another bar as like your offensive and defensive cooldowns, and then like having your last bar as utility and movement or something like that. Another thing is when you're doing keybinds and you're just starting kind of changing your setup, I'd recommend you only do 1 or 2 at a time, like add 1 or 2 keybinds at a time. If you try to add a whole bunch of different keybinds that you're used to, you know, if you're clicking or if you have them, you know, on keybinds that aren't very optimal and you want to change it, you're going to be completely lost and it's going to be even harder for you to hit those. So with keybinds, the best approach is to take it slow, learn 1 to 2 at a time, and then keep adding as you go. So for example, if you're using 1 to 5 already, you know, add Q and E next and add, you know, some of your most used abilities on those, or whatever other keys you have available for your setup. Another thing that really helped me was to also keybind similar abilities on different characters, if that makes sense. So for example, my S is always my interrupt on every single character. So on my priest it's my silence, on my balanced druid it's my sunbeam, and then T is always like kind of like my self personal heal. So on my priest it's flash heal, and on my druid T is healing touch. That way you're going to have that muscle memory automatically built up, and when you switch characters it's going to feel like you don't even have to think about it, like you're just going to hit it automatically. It's like, oh shit, I need to heal myself, that's on T. And if you have an interrupt on a different key on every single character, your mind is going to essentially have to like relearn for each character, so it's not going to feel as fluid for you. And let me know in the comments below if you want me to do like a full in-depth guide on keybinds, because honestly I could talk about keybinds and go on for probably hours, and I could make a whole video on that. I promise you, if you start keybinding right now, by the end you're going to be a much better player when you have all of your abilities mapped out in your muscle memory and they're all easily accessible. So for our settings, I'm going to just go over the main things that I think that will make an actual difference in your gameplay. So sticky targeting, I personally like this because if you're targeted on an enemy like this and you accidentally click somewhere else here on the field, it's not going to deselect them. So if you accidentally, you know, are kind of spinning your camera or something, it's going to deselect them, whereas I might want to still be selected on them and spinning this way to look at different ads. That way I can still dot up this target that is completely on the other side of my camera. So that's with sticky targeting. Without sticky targeting, see how I'm targeted here now, and then I accidentally click over here. Now I'm completely deselected, and say I'm spun around like this, then you're going to lose uptime on your abilities. So kind of just sucks. Your camera, you should have this on never adjust camera, and the reason for that is kind of like what I just showed you earlier. When you're spinning like this, you don't want your camera automatically adjusting back, because you might be looking at something over here. You might be looking at an ad or a boss that's spawning behind you like this, and you don't want your camera to keep spinning you back like this. So I'll just show you here the difference. I'm pretty sure it's on always adjust camera on default. So if you're spinning like this, you're trying to target something back here, and my camera, see, is just like automatically spinning like that. And so always have that to never adjust camera. And then I'm just going to show you like a quick console script that you can run to actually increase your camera distance. So this by default is the max camera distance, but with this little script you write, you can actually increase it by a lot. /console camera distance max zoom factor 3.5 and then enter. So it seems like nothing happened, but look how much further I can scroll out now. And if I go back into the settings, this was maxed out at 2 by default, but now you can see it's 3.5. So see how much better that is? You can actually go even further out than this, but I think 3.5 is pretty good. So under your interface settings is what I'm going to go over next. So if you use the default nameplates, which I don't recommend in MoP Classic just because there isn't enough information and there's not enough options to display that stuff correctly that you need. But if you do end up using the default nameplates, make sure you always show nameplates and you have all 3 of these checked. And then this is the big one, stacking nameplates. So the reason why this is big is because if they're overlapping and you're trying to target different things, it can be very hard to target like the proper things that you need to target. So basically just have that on stacking instead of overlapping. And then party and raid frames, you can also get an add-on for your party and raid frames, but honestly I've used the default ones and I've been playing WoW for over 10 years. I played retail at a very high level. I do heroic raiding in MoP, and I also do healing. So in my opinion, the default party and raid frames are completely fine. You just have to do a little bit of tuning to them. So number 1, use raid style party frames. God, he's gonna be famous. It's actually crazy. Ignoring me, what a fucker. Did he log off? What the hell? He's actually AFK. Oh, there he is. Okay, so anyway, now that he finally joined me, under your raid frames, you're always going to want to have raid style party frames checked, because here, if you uncheck this, you have this piece of shit, whatever the hell this is. I don't know, to me, it just looks terrible. You can't see any debuffs, anything like that. So I've always had this on once I learned what it was. And then there's a few settings here you can use to kind of like spruce it up and make it a little nicer. So these are the ones I use. I like to see power bars for mana, class colors, pets as well. You can heal pets with this, and then show debuffs, and then display only dispellable debuffs. And then these ones are kind of just preference. I like to have them as small as possible here. And then health text, you can even put percentage if you want. In my opinion, I like to see the colors like this, because when I'm healing, they're in the middle of my screen like this, and it's easier to tell if there's no like numbers here, if their health is low, if they need heals, stuff like that. And then under your action bars options, you want to have your numbers for cooldowns is the main thing, so you can actually see when your abilities come off cooldown. But we'll talk about that more in like the add-on section to have a better way of tracking them. So the actual last one I want to talk about in settings is self-cast. So this should be set to auto, and the reason for that is because if you have a target, you need to shield yourself, you need to heal yourself, don't need to target yourself, so it's automatically just going to happen. Boom. So for my user interface, I'm just going to go over basically what I think is essential and what is preference. I'm going to start off with like the essential things that you pretty much need as a Shadow Priest. So first of all, you need some way of tracking your dots, procs, and cooldowns. So whichever way you do that is up to you. I have 2 recommendations that I personally use. So Weak Ores is one, and then Tell Me When is also the other one. I actually make all my own on Tell Me When. It's pretty easy. And then nameplates. You need some sort of nameplates that are actually going to be able to track your dots and stuff properly, because you can see here, this is just Plater. I'm pretty sure it's on default and they look pretty good. So you just need a way of tracking everything visually. The default nameplates just simply like they don't give you enough options. And the other one everybody should already have is DBM or some sort of like boss add-on. I know there's Bigwigs, there's another one or something like that. Another one that I think you do need is your damage meter. I think you need this to know how you're doing like in dungeons and stuff. But if you're progging a raid and you find that you're like too distracted by it and you're like, oh shit, I'm a pumper, I'm top DPS, or oh shit, I don't even see myself on the meteor, and then you keep looking over there and you die, just turn it off. Chances are you're going to perform a lot better when you're not staring at the damage meter the whole fight. GTFO is another really good add-on that everybody should have. So it basically just yells at you, yeah, GTFO, you're dying. So it screams at you when you're standing in fire or anything that's bad. Now as a Shadow Priest, you should be playing Halo quite often, like 90% of the time. So the add-on that I have here is just called, it's literally just called range display. So you can see here when you hover over your target, it says 25 to 30, that means 25 to 30 yards. So that's like the max distance for Halo. As you can see, it should be hitting it with maximum damage. WoW Sims Exporter, this one isn't necessary, but if you want to get sweaty and really get into like the details of your DPS and see how much a DPS increase is, like one piece or something like that, or your 4 set or your 2 set, this just generates your current gear, and then you can copy this and paste it into the WoW Sims website and it'll output like a result for you. And Reforged Lite, this just makes reforging so much easier, and as it says, calculates optimal reforging for given weights and caps. So this is what it looks like. It already has presets for, you know, your class and spec, which are okay, but then you can input your own custom stat weights in here, and then it will automatically calculate it for you and give you the best options. Then you can show it here and just click reforge. Other than that, I think those are pretty much the most like essential add-ons. So for macros, there's a few essential ones that you need to use. So this first one here, I'm going to show you with Angelic Feather. This is just like a basic at cursor macro. So you can see here /cast at cursor in brackets. This means wherever your cursor is on the screen. For example, this macro is on my shift wheel up, so my cursor's over here, shift wheel up, and then I'll put the feather there. If it's on just like a normal keybind, say like right here, I have it on shift 1, you have to hit that keybind and then place it as well. So it's just a one less step that you have to do, and it just makes you a lot faster for reaction time. And then I also use that one for mass dispel. So wherever my cursor is, say I need to dispel 2 raid members over here, then you just put your cursor over there and then you hit your mass dispel keybind and it will just do it exactly where your cursor is. So super helpful. This one is a cancel aura dispersion macro. So this one cast dispersion and then you cancel aura. So this is really useful lots of times when you're soaking big raid mechanics or big raid damage is about to go out. So what this macro does is you can hit it to cast it, say the mechanic goes out, okay, you're done, you can hit it again and it will cancel it early. So that's super helpful for having more uptime on your DPS. And then this is just another basic like targeting macro. So in brackets at your focus, so say this was set as your focus, you're attacking this one here and you're assigned to do an important interrupt. So you're attacking this target, then you hit your macro and it's automatically going to silence that target. It's immune, but you see what I mean. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is just like a /use macro. So this macro here is on my Mind Blast, and I also have it on my Mind Spike because I use these abilities for my opener and my core rotation, and they're basically on cooldown all the time. So /10 is this slot here. So that means as soon as I cast, or as soon as I use 10, I'm casting Mind Blast. Same with Mind Spike, or that's going to use my engineering cooldown. So even if I cast Mind Blast or Mind Spike. So see right now I'll cast my Mind Spike, and it's going to automatically use that. Now actually improving, how do we improve? So this is going to sound cliche, but obviously you need to practice. So this means when you have some spare time and you're on WoW, just hit the target dummy, help you learn your rotation. Remember to always like practice how you'd actually play too. So when you're practicing, make sure you're using your cooldowns, make sure you practice like different rotations, like your single target, your multi-dotting, your AoE, practice in dungeons and even battlegrounds. Honestly, like I don't PvP a lot, but when I do, it helps me learn my defensive cooldowns a lot better and how to use my crowd control like a lot better as well. So PvP is not a bad option, definitely, for learning like your more utility and like defensive stuff. While you're leveling up and questing too, make sure you use your cooldowns. I have seen like a lot of people doing questing and they're like not using their cooldowns ever and just going like with the base rotation. That kind of creates like bad habits, which leads me into my next topic, which is bad habits. So try to learn the spec properly before you actually start building muscle memory. I actually had a problem with my balance druid. I was was doing something slightly wrong and applying the dots at the wrong time, and it was giving me like a little less damage. So I ended up having to like work that bad habit out, which kind of sucked. So yeah, basically just like build your muscle memory in any way you can, doing dungeons, whatever type of content. And once you have your muscle memory down, like you're not even going to have to think about what spells you're going to have to hit. So this is going to be super helpful. Then this is going to allow you to focus on the actual fights and mechanics and doing, you know, the fight properly and
not dying.
Learning boss fights too. So obviously practicing boss fights, you can't expect to go into a boss fight one time and be doing it properly. So you got to practice. Keep going back to that raid, keep improving. And this might be a little bit of a stretch, but even just like record your gameplay and watch it. It's not too hard to record your gameplay, and you can always just go back and look at it. I noticed this a lot when I started making YouTube videos, that there is a lot of room for improvement. You don't think and you feel like you're doing amazing in certain fights, but then you look back and there's certain things here and there where you're actually missing. And by the end of the fight, you're missing out on a lot of DPS. So that's super helpful. And then once you learn the boss fights, it's actually it's gonna help you time your cooldowns and stuff faster and knowing when to use them. Because for example, lots of boss fights like aren't enough to get your 3-minute cooldowns out multiple times. So if a boss fight is like 5 minutes and you know you're only gonna get 2 Shadow Fiends out, it's better to hold one until the execute phase, likely when you're using hero potions and stuff like that, because you're gonna get more damage out of that cooldown. So rather than popping it as soon as it comes up, you're gonna miss all that DPS with all the extra buffs that you have. And then I want to end this video just by talking about like your mistakes and accountability. So if you actually want to get better at WoW, you actually have to take accountability for your mistakes and learn from them and not become defensive. You have to know you messed up in order to fix it. Like if you're stuck in your excuses and you think you did nothing wrong, you're going to be stuck at that skill level. And that honestly goes for anything in life. So anyway, that's going to be all for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helped. Give it a like and a comment if this helped you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.